talk. I'm super, super glad you said yes to do this call because you're a young little lady with a big vision. And I think we just start that you tell us a little bit about your vision, and then what's the second intent I have with this call is to show a little bit more of the person behind the vision, to show a little bit more the visionary person, so that perhaps you out there as a visionary, as a leader, you can have some identification to see that you're not alone out there with your thinking, with your problem, with your doubts. And here we go.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, for having me. A little bit about myself. My name is Mabob. I am based out of Dallas, Texas, from the United States. And I have been in the blockchain, digital currency, and the new digital innovation space, Web3, for the past, I would say about 4 years now. And my background, I come from a more of a retail industry. I was executive for some of the largest beauty brands, have opened other businesses, successful businesses in brick and mortar as well. And where my vision kind of came from is technology has always been a huge part of our daily lives. And through social impact work that I've been working on through my other businesses, especially with resources and working with children and women throughout Southeast Asia as well as Africa, one of the things that I have learned is that technology can solve a lot of real world problems and really enable us to achieve a lot more than we really can. And that's how I got into blockchain technology. Through the power of blockchain technology and decentralization, which is being able to give power back to the hands of the people and how they control their lives, how they control their data, I really started learning a lot more and wanted to create something that every individual, regardless of their location or their financial status or where they're from, that they're able to create their own financial ecosystem and utilize it, whether for business needs or whether it's actual commerce, buying, selling, and being able to transition into that space. So I started, I'm one of the co-founders of MBD Financials, which stands for Metaverse Business District. And what we're building is a photorealistic business district within the metaverse where individuals, especially organizations, businesses, from financial institutions to e-commerce, brick and mortar, or individuals that are looking to get into the space, they're able to easily, seamlessly transition into this space. So imagine Amazon Marketplace and OpenSea, Rarible, most of the Web3 digital space that you kind of hear about NFTs. It's merged together in a seamless process where anyone can be able to buy, purchase, sell, and create their own financial ecosystem.
So you look for easier solutions, like in the world from tomorrow, when I would take a short sentence and a brief conclusion of your business. Would you say that's right?
Absolutely. So the best way to describe us that we are a solutions builder, bridging some of the largest gaps in the DeFi, Metaverse, and Web3 space.
And I think it's not just this normal stuff, and it's not stuff you usually are getting in. It's stuff a lot of people are looking and thinking, wow, this is coming, perhaps it's coming, I hope it will not come, I don't know how to handle. What did you bring to this stuff, and why did you choose to go with this whole business?
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest with you, it's coming. When you look at a lot of the large brands, I start with commerce because that's something that we utilize things, tangible things into our daily lives, whether it's clothing, food. It's all within that cycle of buying and selling ecosystem for businesses to grow and to help solve a problem that exists in your life. And when you look at the commerce space, that's how a lot of brands, whether it's financial institution, when it came, we transitioned from actually fiat, which is cash, to credit cards. And now you have digital payments for Apple Pay, Google Pay. And just, you don't even have to physically have the card with you to be able to make a purchase. We went from going into physical stores to online shopping, and we really saw that come alive with COVID. And then Amazon came around, and everything is being shipped to your home directly with Prime in less than 24 hours, and sometimes in the same day. So we as individuals have evolved the way we communicate, or as well as actually transact within this in the world. And one of the things I feel like the biggest problem that we continue to build solutions to solve is time. Mm-hmm. How do we add more time into our lives to make things easier, quicker, even if it takes away one less minute, that tap to make a purchase or a credit card tap to make a purchase instead of putting it into the slot? We're saving time. So innovation saves time. And that's one of the problems that I feel like we're solving, because especially in the Web3 space, it's very complicated. And it's moving at such a fast speed that we're not allowed, everything will transition over, just like we went from internet, from dial-up to Wi-Fi, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we get everybody else to adopt it? And how do we solve a problem that exists into every individual's lives, that to show them the value behind Web3? So we are starting with the consumer space, where tangible goods products, creating digital twins of actual goods and products, and being able to create that within as an NFT to show the authenticity. One of the solutions on our platform, it's funny that you say that. It's because I got it from my personal shopping experience. And a lot of moms, me being a mom myself, what we deal with when it comes to gifting and being able, you receive a product and then it's not the right size or color, it's a gift. Then you have to go return it, or it sits in your closet and the return date expired. So imagine being able to digitally receive it and you're able to resell it because you don't like it, and it never leaves the warehouse unless you hit redeem. Mm-hmm. So it goes to the person that actually hits redeem and puts their information in. That's just one solution, right? And amongst so much more, from data privacy and as well as being able to control your own data, there's so many more solutions to save time that exists within Web3.
Yeah, and I think the example with the mother, that's a good example. Everybody who has children know that you're quite happy to have more time to stay at home with them than to go between shopping malls, bring stuff back, get it again. Because, with little children, go shopping, that's a hard time.
Yes.
When we take technology, normally we don't combine with emotion. But on the same time, knowing that all this stuff is coming and not really knowing what is coming and how we can use it, or this fear of using it because it's completely different. What are you doing, or how are you handling these emotions of customers in the future, or customers, they are not using it now? Has it space so that you're also talking about emotions, or is it just the technique?
Absolutely. Everything has to do with emotions. I think if you don't include emotions, then you don't really have a product, right? So when you look at brands, when it comes to marketing, for example, brand marketing, why do people, and then you have loyalty structures and so many other things, they're all tied to an emotion. You buy from a brand because of the values versus just the products alone. You buy from people versus the company. A lot of times salespeople will tell you that. That's why you want the best salespeople, because people buy from people. And it's what the companies and the organizations stand for. It has to relate. It has to speak to me. So one of the things that I go back to beauty brands, beauty industry, because that's kind of my backbone of where I started my career. A lot of times when you look at brands against animal testing, organic, vegan, where do these people purchase their ingredients from? Or as far as where your clothing even comes from, organic cotton. One of the brands that I was very close to and have opened up locations in Singapore, Lush Cosmetics. They're very well known globally for their handmade products and ethically sourced ingredients. And when you think about simple things such as that, well, why does it matter ethically sourced? Because we're buying a lot of these ingredients that have adverse effects. Whether it's towards global warming, the elimination of like cultivating palm oil and how it destroys and eliminates a lot of the animal, as far as orangutans are going extinct due to that. So we don't quite understand the adverse effects of us just using one ingredient. But if you're able to help individuals without giving away charity, for example, the shea butter and cocoa butter is purchased from a village in Ghana. So that village, the women are the sole provider for their families, and they're sourcing these cocoa butter and utilizing it versus buying it from a manufacturing company just to save a couple dollars. So you're ultimately helping individuals and communities in a larger way, making an impact in the world where you're still using the product and feeling good about yourself.
Great. Why is still this fear here? History shows us, well, the future is coming. You cannot not hold it back. But it's always this fear against technology. And I think one of the reasons is really because people have the impression they don't have emotion. What's right? The technique has no emotion, but it's not a technique who is, as you say now, it's not the technique who is using this product. But why do you think is it this fear here against these technologies, these new technologies stuff?
Of course, it's because there's several factors that come with it. We as humans fear change. Ultimately, we do. We don't want to move, or we don't want to relocate. It's the risk associated with it. How will it make? It's the what ifs. Mm-hmm. What if I don't like the place? Or what if this happens? Or what if that happens? So why change anything if what we're doing is already working? But that's part of evolution. We as society would not be here if we didn't adopt those changes, right? When you look at Thomas Edison invented electricity, so light bulb. So if a lot of these inventions weren't there, we wouldn't reach the moon. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest fears, I think, that affects this entire change is at the same time, when you look at technology going towards decentralization, you hear that word a lot within Metaverse, Web3 space, NFTs. What is digital and why do we need it? What people don't understand is that a lot of the big organizations from Web2 space, you've got Google, Microsoft, and the big players in the industry. The data that's collected is how they make money. It's not just the solutions. So when you look at, a lot of the social medias that you're on, they're not making money just from the products being advertised or marketing. It's the data collection. So everything that you do, all of your activities, what you talk about, when we joke and say, my phone is listening to me because you're talking about shoes and now you're on social media and it's showing you shoes. It's called intent data. It is collecting data. Everything is collecting data. So we have to take a step back and say, do we allow other people to benefit from my activities? or do I take that back and choose how much information I want to share? So it's almost like technology is evolving, but it's taking us one step back when we had privacy, when we didn't share all of our information. So it's kind of a merge of, we're saving time, we're evolving, but at the same time, we're taking a step back and saying, my data is my data. If I want to monetize, I can monetize off of it. So that's where it comes in, that we're simplifying ways we earn and adding more ways for us to be able to become financially, to achieve financial freedom, at the same time invest, and not have other people tell us what we can do and what we can't do in the form of within the digital space.
So we're here going the way, in some kind back, and where we had been once. And I think this evolution would now be something who gives us more freedom to say again and to choose again and take decision what I really will share and what I really will show.
Absolutely. It's like a reboot, right? I think we overshare to begin with, and people take advantage of that. That's where a lot of it dictates how what society should do. And it dictates the trend. I call it the hashtag trend. Because if the influencers are buying this, and this is what I should look at, it's being fed to you psychologically. So it's a way for us to take a step back and not become so robotic of doing things of how we've always done it, and to take a step back and say, okay, this is how I can control what I do. And this is what I want to see. This is what I don't want my children to see. I don't want them to collect my data for this. So it's the little cookies that every time you go on a website and it asks accept, how difficult it is to actually adjust it when you just want to do it fast. So everybody just accepts all cookies because it's easier. So this is a way where you wouldn't have to accept all cookies or deny or select cookies. It's automatically your cookies that's stored in your information and data, and it's how you choose to share with organizations or anybody else.
Okay. Yeah. So it's also some sort of responsibility we get back, that we really can do decisions and take, but then we have really to take on our own the responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Could it be that the systems we have since now, that they are not teaching the children, also the younger adults? Because I think, from an age on, there's not possible that we had been taught because we didn't grow up with all this technology, but that already now these systems are not teaching this kind of responsibility, so that the children, the young adults are not prepared for this, to take this kind of responsibility when they came out.
Yeah, no, I agree. But at the same time, I do think our children are way smarter than us, and especially at the ages they're in, right? When I think about my school days or my college days and carrying around in my backpack books, right? And in my hands.
There was something.
You don't see that anymore. And when I talk to my son about how his day was, what you did in school, they talk about going into Alexia app, and they talk about all of these applications, and they have a lot of screen time at school. But at the same time, I see how advanced he is for his age versus where we were when we were actually reading textbooks. So I think the future generations, my son fixes my son's 8 years old, and he fixes my mother's iPhone problems. She would ask him, hey, Alec, can you show me this? Right? So I think children are very much more advanced than we think they are, because they're being exposed to the technology and different environments. And when you think about the metaverse that we're building, we may be opposed to it, but our children, it's been around for generations. When you think about any type of online gaming, any environment where it continues on and you can't hit pause. So even text environments where you could connect with other people from anywhere in the world, it's a metaverse. And it's always existed. And it's just evolved to where we can do more now, actually interact, transact, and it relates to real world things instead of fake money and buy fake things online for gaming to wear and play, and that's it, right? So we're adding more what we call utilities. And the great part of what we need, we as individuals, as adults, have to look at is how do we secure them from those environments that are constantly ongoing and you cannot pause? And how do we provide that security at the same time? So it's one of those where it's instant, things happen in an instant. You can't go back and redo it. So it has consequences. Every action has a consequence, digitally or in real world.
That's right.
Exactly. So we just have to protect ourselves, and a lot of that security, that's where, even with AI, when we talk about, the ethics and how AI, how much should AI know and how much capability should it have? So even within the metaverse, we have metaverse ethics as far as, what you can do and what you can't do in the metaverse, and how will it be regulated, and how will what type of laws would apply to it.
Okay, so that's like really a new world, entire world with a new system. So in future, could it mean that we change world?
I would like to hope that this will allow us to see the world in a new and better way. Allow us to do more now, because a lot of times, just like in real world, we can't go back and change things that have happened. And history, that saying, history repeats itself. We see that happening all the time, right? So I would like to think the new generation, which now we have so much more information than we've ever had, people aren't boxed in to where they are. They're able to learn new cultures just from their phone. They're able to talk to individuals or visit places and see things that they've never been able to do. So I think it's going to open up and bring more tolerance within people to accept everyone for who they are, and ultimately as a global unit to see the world come together as a better place where everybody exists equally.
Wow, that's a cool view. I love this one. And with this answer, we came to your mission, your vision. I think it's quite close to them what you told us now, of looking in another way at the world. Why are you doing what you are doing?
So it hits really close to home, and one of the reasons I get up every day and it makes me want to do more and continue to grind and build this. It's not just about businesses and this transformation and transitioning into Web3 space. Ultimately, like I mentioned earlier, every individual that uses a product or stands for something, it has to hit close to home. So that's how innovation kind of comes in. So one of the main reasons, I'm originally from Bangladesh. My parents were born there. I was born there. It's a country next to India. It's a developing country. And it's one of the most overly populated countries in the world. And resources quite don't exist there. They became their own country pretty recent, I would say 1971. So ever since then, it's rebuilding a country. So I was lucky enough to be born into a family where we had resources. My parents went to college. My dad was able to go to college in UK, and he traveled the world and relocated to the US with his family. So I grew up in the United States, and one of the things he was able to do is provide us with resources, all of the vast amount of first world resources that exist.
Mhm.
And that brought me to the fact that I went to college and I was able to build, yes, they weren't at the same level as Americans, that grew up here and have generations. They were the developers starting a whole new life in a new country.
Yeah.
So they were the bottom tier, just like there are people in Bangladesh in bottom tier. But at the same time, I felt like because of the vast amount of resources that exist, I'm able to be where I am and change my future generations. And here I am, being a founder of multiple companies. And that same resources does not exist for individuals across the globe. Whether even in the United States, there's parts of the parts where people are still deprived and they don't have accessibility of those resources. So that's what I wanted to bring, not just charity that we're giving this much money to this organization who helps these children with education, but what if in a decentralized world where you have digital currency, where people could earn, there's so many use cases that I learned during COVID, one being Axie Infinity, where in the Philippines, people were playing games, it's play to earn, and earning actual money, which then they used for food and resources. The farmers used it for crops and different things like that. And they earned more than they've ever earned working 12, 15-hour days. So that got me thinking that it's a full cycle. Businesses need to hire people, operational consumers, they need to get ingredients, products, and be able to market it wholly to all of the consumers. At the same time, people need things and resources, whether it's education, how do you have accessibility? So that's where this whole business district came from, because we're not a charitable organization whatsoever. But at the same time, we give back. The way we give back is allowing people to be able to have access to all of these resources, some that will not cost them anything, from education to learning new skill sets, to job opportunities, and then having to trade that in for, let's say we have a grocery store that's part of our ecosystem. They can trade it in at the local grocery store for actual food, clothing, or education for their children. And at the same time, learning how to financially be free. So that becomes a disruptor of inherited poverty, and that cycle of poverty that will continue if there isn't an outside disruptor. So that's a little bit about why I started all of this, because at the end of the day, I feel like if I could make an impact in one person's life, then I have helped humanity as a whole. So I want to leave the world a little bit better than I found it.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I think it's because I'm talking a lot about responsibility, and I think it's this new kind of responsibility. So it's not charity for charity, where you create the other circle where they never will get out because they need your money, and you don't give them knowledge, and you give them possibilities, knowledge and money. So they have all the ingredients to succeed. And I think that's hopefully the new charity who will succeed to make really the world a better world.
Absolutely. And I work with a lot of youths in a lot of these countries, and especially in the digital currency space. And, when you look at cryptocurrency, and even though a lot of, especially in the US, regulations kind of coming down on them, but at the same time, you look at some of the people, some of the countries that are highest consumers, Germany being one of them, India, the World Bank adopting it. So when you look at digital currency, it creates this huge level ground where now anyone can become wealthy. If you learn financial, like how stocks work, before it was like even for myself, and I've been in financial space as well for quite some time. For me, it was jargon. It went way over my head, right? When you look at all of your graphs and where the stocks are going. But in this new Web3 space, when a project comes out, or when a product or a company launches, and you launch a digital token attached to it, it's like going IPO or releasing your stocks before you even launch a product. But it brings awareness because of the fact that if you make the right decision and invest in a company this early, and they already have their stocks out, then it creates that entry, that low barrier to entry that's created, because normally companies become big, then they launch stocks, and now people can invest, but it's hard to get in unless you have a lot of money. Nobody wants to buy one or two stock and become a millionaire, right? But that's like when you see Bitcoin and Ethereum and where they have been. It's the utilities, and where Bitcoin was, people invested in it when it was $1, $2, $3, $4. And now it's over $45,000 per Bitcoin. And banks and governments are afraid, because this will become where your socioeconomic status can be instantly changed because of a decision that you made. And you don't have to have millions of dollars to make that decision. You could have $100 and invest into a project when they first started, and you follow it and you make the right decision and you do your own research, which is readily available. And let's say a year from now, in the bull market, it goes 1,000x. Now you've made 1,000 times that 100. So anyone can become who they want to be by making the right decision. And it's scary, but at the same time, I feel like it reshuffles the statuses that we've created, where it goes generation to generation. If you're born into a wealthy family, you will be wealthy. Yeah. And there are very few self-made millionaires unless you have a huge talent, you're a musician, or, not everybody can become that. So if the resources are there for you to learn and be able to do this, I think anyone can go into this space and become somebody.
Yeah. So we really level up possibilities, I think, and really to get some also more chances than you ever had before.
Absolutely.
So let us come to the end, because I told you we will have this short, so that short inspiring moments with visionary leaders. This question about the magic wand. When you would have one today, what would you conjure for you today with this magic wand? For you?
Ooh, that's a good question. And I like that question because I think I've mentioned previously, in other words, I actually do this all the time with my business partner. Well, I always, we talk about the genie. I was watching a Christmas movie and we were talking about, what if you had 3 wishes? And I know my 3 wishes so ready. So if a genie ever comes, I know what to wave that magic wand for. And my first thing would be to be able to not worry about being an early stage founder. Leading a company. There's so much that you kind of have to deal with. So just what I explained in regards to launching a stock at the same time. It's difficult because you have general investors, and then you have your product you're launching, employees, and how am I going to get funding? And, you want to stay within regulations, and you have to pay for so much. So a lot of times I lose my focus around what I'm building at the same time versus trying to figure out, okay, we need to bring in more funding, or how are we going to survive? Like, how do we continue this project? So it's always chasing money and having to re-justify why we're doing something so revolutionary, making people believe over and over again. So my magic wand would be not have to worry about funding. And now I'm not saying I want millions and millions of dollars, but to be able to get to that, like that launch point where I can actually focus on why we started this, work with launching the product and being able to reach so many more people to show them the value behind what we're doing. And as well as the return on investment for not just businesses, but for people to see, okay, this is something that's going to be a game changer in this space. Because I may be biased, but I do think this is going to help so many people and so many organizations. And this would be one of the solutions to adopt mass adoption within the space. So that would be my thing with my magic wand, to forward it to where we've launched and we've succeeded, to see the difference I could make rather earlier than much later.
So perhaps an investor who has all this money will hear and look at this visionary talk. So feel free to contact May. We will link down the contact so you can really reach her out if you are this magic wand for her business, for her vision. So thank you, May, for being here, for talking with me about your vision, about how it comes, what you are driven by. I loved it very much. You're an amazing person. I wish you all the best for going with this vision further on. And I think we will in future talk a lot about your company, because you're making some traces ready for the people to follow you in the future.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And I really enjoyed our conversation. It wasn't just business-like. And I love your question about emotions, because it is everything we do is emotion driven. So us as leaders, it's so important not to get lost in the fact of the everyday grind, right? Everyday tasks that we tackle, and remember why we all started, or whether you're working in an industry that you're passionate about, why you got into what you're doing every day to begin with. So thank you for having me and letting me share my story.